Every day, all around the world, people begin their day by getting themselves ready and making their way to work in order to pay for all of the things they need in today's modern society, and so they can pay for all of the things they want. Constantly pushing forward to accumulate more money and possessions, often feeling a little lost and wondering what life is really all about. While at the same time, in other parts of the world, people are still beginning their day by walking long distances to collect their family's daily water needs. What if there was a way to connect these two problems and fix both of them?
My name is Dwayne Peachy, and for as long as I can remember, I've had this feeling that one day I'd go to Africa to help fix the water problems there. Now it seems like that one day has come, because I'm here in Ethiopia and I'm ready to begin my mission by digging my first well for a village here. I feel like it's going to be an amazing journey, and I want to share it with as many people as possible. So I brought a couple of cameras with me and I'll be filming everything. Now, before we begin, let's get one thing clear. I, like most people, have got no idea how to dig a well. But I've been saving up my pennies, and now I've got enough to finance the construction of a well through a local Ethiopian charity that does know how to do it. I've already been in the country for a couple of months. I've found the perfect Ethiopian charity, and now we're ready to begin.
Contrary to what many people believe, Ethiopia is an amazing country with bustling cities, awesome forests, incredible wildlife, ancient historical sites, and beautiful natural places that really have to be seen to be believed. So along the way, we'll be taking a look at some of these beautiful things. My mission begins 600 kilometers west of the Ethiopian capital, Addis Ababa, in a town named Dembidolo. From there, it's a 20-minute ride by motorbike to get to the village. This is Zega. He works for the Walal Development Association, the very small Ethiopian charity I've teamed up with for this project. Zega and the Walal Development Association will make sure that everything goes smoothly. They will organise everything from the purchase of the hand pump to obtaining all the necessary government permits. When we reach the central meeting place, key members of the village have gathered to welcome me and to find out why I have come to their village. I'm introduced to the people and we explain that I'm here to help them dig a brand new well. The local government officials inform everybody about their requirements, and a discussion begins about where the new well should be placed. Everybody has a chance to have their say. It is decided where the new well should go. And then, everybody begins to move. We're on our way to where it's been decided the new well should go, so we can ask the landowner for his permission. When he arrives, we tell him that the village has chosen his place for the new well. We explain everything that will take place during its construction, and that once it's finished, people will need access to the well every day. Everything considered, he is more than happy to have the well on his land. Before I know it, the men begin clearing the land we will need for the work site. But as the machete starts swinging and I'm scurrying for cover, somebody calls for everybody to stop work. This was a very important occasion, so So, as with all important things in this village, it was essential it begin with a prayer. For me, this prayer was especially beautiful because, just like it is throughout Ethiopia, Christians and Muslims stood side by side with their heads bowed in prayer, each understanding that the religion and the words were irrelevant. They were all praying to the same God.
Amen. Amen.
When the prayer ended, all the men sprang into action. They wouldn't allow me to do anything, so all I could do was stand back and watch as they made short work of it. This is Desi. Desi is our well contractor. He's the man with all of the knowledge. Here he's marking out the place where the well will go. And then, just like that, we had begun.
Hey, Jamara! Hey!
The digging continued throughout the day, and everybody was keen to have a go. At some points, there were 5 people working together to dig. Everybody worked very hard, but nobody had to work for very long before somebody came to take their place. The sense of community was amazing. It was really beautiful to watch. At the end of the first day, we'd already dug down 1.5 metres, and the day ended just as it had started, with a prayer of thanks.
The whole world's gone a little bit crazy, but just like any crazy person, we can't see it ourselves. We spend our whole lives chasing after things, after cars and money and houses. But if we tell even a 20-year-old that at the end of his life, all of his things and his cars and his money won't mean anything, he'll nod his head and say, "Yeah, I know." And then he'll spend the rest of his life chasing after it anyway. This is almost a definition of craziness, but it's something that we all do. At the end of our life, the only thing that's going to mean anything is the same questions that we all have. Who's going to remember us? What are they going to remember us for? What have we done while we were here? What difference did we make? What was the point of us being here? These are the same questions we all have, but none of us spend any time during our life doing anything about it.
Day 2 began with another community meeting, this time to elect a water committee. 3 men and 3 women who, during the construction, would be trained in all aspects of the well, and thereafter would be responsible for its maintenance. A vote was taken, and by the end of the meeting, the 6 members of the water committee had been elected. By the time I arrived at the well, the guys had already made a lot of progress. It was now much deeper, so they had set up a pulley wheel and bucket to help get all of the dirt out of the hole. Also, they had dug holes in the side walls, which they were now using to climb to the bottom. I felt a little guilty about how much work the guys had done without me, so I thought I'd better help. As we worked, there was one question playing on my mind. It had been bothering me since we started digging the day before. How do we know there's water here? I put this question to Tsega. He told me that the locals said there is water everywhere here. It's normally between 7 and 10 metres. We just have to dig and we will find it. This theory did not fill me with a lot of confidence. What if we don't find water here? It looked like hard work down there, and for the first few days the men had forbidden me from going down the well to dig. They thought it was far too dangerous for a foreigner to attempt. But on the fifth day, I had to insist that I was going down the hole. I told them that I had come here to dig a well, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. The men understood my position and allowed me to go down.
Nice.
The air down there was very thin. It had more dust than oxygen and it did not move. It was very hot, hard work.
Yeah.
But as hard as it was, I was loving every minute of it. Finally, I was digging a well. I'd been wanting to do this for a very, very long time. One morning, I saw some of the ladies walk by with their jerry cans. They were on their way to collect water, so I decided to follow them to see how far they had to go. One of the ladies had brought her daughter with her for a walk. Her name was Afiza, and she had a cute little toy jerry can of her own so she could emulate her mum. We walked for more than 2 kilometres in the hot morning sun to get to the spring. When we arrived, the ladies filled their jerry cans, washed their feet, and began the long walk home again. This time, they were carrying either 20 or 25 kilograms of water on their back. As we walked, I noticed that the little jerry can Afiza was carrying was now being carried by her mum up in front. It was not a toy at all. It was now filled with an extra 3 litres of water, and this lady was struggling to carry it and another large jerry can. When the struggle became too much, she stopped, held the little jerry can out, and Afiza ran forward to carry it for her mum. As we continued to walk, Afiza's mum had a very heavy load, so she had to keep moving. Slowly, Afiza began to fall behind. Afiza is the eldest child in her family. The sad truth is that in villages just like this all around the world, the eldest daughter has to stay home to help her mum with all of the work that needs to be done. So, she doesn't get to go to school. Building wells closer to their homes can save the ladies a lot of work. It also gives them back valuable hours in their day, which means that they may not need the help of their eldest daughter anymore. So, digging wells not only brings fresh drinking water, but also provides a glimmer of hope that little girls like Afiza will have a chance to go to school and get an education. Afiza continued to walk for well over a kilometre. She did not put her little jerry can down even once until she had reached her home, where she greeted her little sister and went inside to put it down. The smile she gave me when she came back out almost brought me to tears. How can this still be happening? For the ladies, collecting the water is just the beginning of the day's work. They need to tend the gardens where their family's food grows. They process the different grains they grow. They also need to make the traditional breads that their family will eat. In order to do that, they must first make the flour. It takes these ladies over an hour every day to make enough flour for their family's bread. Then they have to make the bread. Plus all of the other food to go with it. Through the middle of all of this, there is also children to take care of and 100 other small jobs that need to be done. Women all around the world have a massive workload just like this to provide for their families' basic needs. Bringing the water closer to their homes takes a very big weight off their shoulders, both literally and figuratively.
With all we have in the Western world, it's hard to believe that there's still 2 billion people on the planet that need this kind of help. The big question is, what can we do about it? Well, there's 5 billion of us on the planet that are in a position to do something about this at some time in our lives. Each well we dig services a minimum of 200 people, which means we can take the figure of 2 billion and divide it by 200. This brings us down to a figure of 10 million. That means if we can get 10 million people from the 5 billion who are able to help to begin planning their own life project and stand up and say, I will dig a well, then we can go a long way toward fixing the water problems we have all over the world. I feel like there's a lot more than 1 in 500 that want to see this problem fixed. If we really want to see this fixed, we need to stand up and make it happen.
The men had said we should find water between 7 and 10 metres. This was the 7th day of digging. We were already down to a depth of 10 metres, and we were not seeing any sign of water. That question started playing on my mind again. What if we don't find water here? This is a Safa. A Safa is a very good man for the village. He was elected to be a part of the water committee. From there, he took it upon himself to be at the well every day to help with the work and to make sure that somebody from the village knew everything there was to know about the well. He also organised everything I needed and took me everywhere I needed to go in the village. Asafra and I became good friends quite quickly. Although I hadn't said anything, I think he had noticed that I was beginning to worry. He suggested that we go for a walk so he could show me the fields where the village grew most of their food. When we got there, I was very surprised by what I saw. There was a massive field full of every vegetable that was in season. There was also a lot of fruit. There were bananas, avocados, papaya, and mangoes. The coffee was coming back in season. And they even had these handmade beehives, which the men would hang in the trees surrounding the fields. This would keep the bees close so they could pollinate the fruit. And it also made it easy for the men to collect the honey. I asked Asafa how they managed to water everything. He explained that there was a river that ran past the bottom of the fields. The water was contaminated, so it wasn't suitable for drinking, but it was still good for farming. What Asafa showed me next was very impressive. A little further upstream, there was a waterfall. From the top of the waterfall, the men had diverted the water through the rocks. They had dug a small stream which wound its way around the hill that the waterfall was on. The stream came out at the back of the fields below. From there, they were able to divert the water to wherever they needed it. It was really an ingenious setup. By day 9, we were down to 14 metres, much deeper than we'd expected to have to dig, and still there was no sign of water. We may soon have to face the fact that we have chosen the wrong place to dig a well. The men added more rope to the bucket so it could reach the bottom. What could we do? We couldn't stop now. We had to keep on digging. At these stressful times, having all of the kids around was really nice. Watching them play and hearing them laugh lightened the situation and reminded us all what we were working for. Everywhere I went, the children would follow. There were 2 kids in particular that were always there. Little Afiza and her best friend Georgie. They both lived very close to where the well was being built, so every morning when I arrived, I would call out for them.
Afiza!
Georgie, like Afiza, was also 3 years old, and he was the village comedian. He was constantly making people laugh. He loved to play this game with me, where he would stalk me from a distance, slowly creeping closer and closer, until I would turn and chase him for a few steps, and then stop. He would run off to a safe distance and turn around. Then, the whole process would start all over again. This day, I decided to chase him properly to see what would happen. By day 11, we still had not found water. Things had become quite serious. The mood had dropped considerably, and everybody was becoming quite concerned. But then, we had a breakthrough.
So, after 11 days of digging and 16 metres down, we've finally found what we've been looking for. We've got moisture in the bottom of the hole. But I can't show you what that looks like from here, so we're going to have to go down. So here we are in the bottom of the well, and this is what it looks like. It doesn't look like much now, but it means that we're digging in the right place. And it also means that if we keep digging, we're going to have the water that we want. This makes it a lot more exciting, but it also makes the work a lot more difficult, because now we've not only got to get the dirt out of the hole, but we've got to get the water out of the hole as it seeps in as well. This has to happen all bucket by bucket. It's got to go 15 metres straight up and out of here, which makes it very slow and very tiring, but it's all worth it in the end.
Nice. Nice one.
As I emerged from the well again, everybody was in a festive mood. We were all very relieved and excited to finally find water. But there was no time to sit and celebrate. We had to keep on digging. Asafo was ready to go and went straight down the hole to get back to work.
A life project is definitely a beautiful thing to achieve, but giving and helping people is an attitude that we should try to adopt in everyday life. Every day we get the opportunity to help somebody, and in most cases it doesn't cost us anything. We can help to carry a heavy load or hold an elevator door open. In certain circumstances, even a simple smile can help to change somebody's day for the better. Every time we do this, we not only help that person with their immediate problem, we show them that we've seen their struggle, that we understand, and that they're not alone in their time of need. The energy this creates for both people is more valuable to us than anything we will ever own.
As the work went on, more and more water began to seep into the well. This meant that every morning, before we could begin, we had to remove all of the water that had collected overnight. At this point, I assume because there was now water involved, the ladies came and took over. Although the water was not yet good for drinking, it was still good enough for washing, cleaning, and watering plants, so the ladies collected everything that came out. And of course, little Afiza was there to help. As we continued, we got down to a rocky gravel layer. The digging became harder and harder. And then, 3 days after we had first found moisture in the hole, we hit solid bedrock. There was no way we could move or break the bedrock by traditional methods, so that meant this was the end of the digging. Now, the really hard work was about to begin. We needed to line the walls of the well all the way back to the top with rock and mortar in order to seal it and stop any dirt or contaminants from getting into the water. For this, we were going to need a lot of rocks. Every rock needed to be shaped before it could go down the well. Even the gravel to line the bottom of the well had to be made by hand from larger rocks. The kids helped move the rocks closer to the well. There was mortar to be mixed, and everything had to be passed down the well bucket by bucket to the man doing the masonry work. That man was Desi, our well contractor. He was the only man for miles who knew how to do this part of the job properly. So it was his job to do it all. He had to line the bottom of the well with gravel and begin building the cylindrical wall. Desi had to shape, place and pack each rock perfectly. There was going to be a lot of weight sitting on top of this. Any mistake now could cause everything to collapse later. This part of the job was quite dangerous. In order to do the masonry work, Desi had to sit on a board that was resting on top of the rocks he had already mortared into place. He would build up the wall behind and in front of the board he was sitting on. Then he would place the board on top of those rocks and build up the gap where the board was before. To add to all of this, it was much more difficult to lower the bucket than it was to raise it. It was now filled with more than 30 kilograms of rocks. This was going to be a long, slow process. We needed to be very careful. Dropping a rock or the bucket could be fatal. Desi's life was literally in our hands. Every morning, getting out to the village was an amazing way to start the day. The road leaving town was quite rough, which meant we had to go slowly. The kids loved to chase us, waving and laughing, and all the way out, people made me feel very welcome.
Here we are, we've arrived. The well is just through here. What an amazing journey. All the way out there's people that want to say hello, waving. It's an awesome feeling before I even get here. But right here in the background, this is what it's all about.
10 days after beginning the rock work, Desi had been working tirelessly. He had made good progress, but it was becoming clear that this part of the job was going to take quite a while. Every few days, we would get a visit from one of the village elders. His name was Murga. He was 98 years old. He was amazing. He was like the village history book. Every time he came, the men would gather around to listen to whatever it was that he wanted to talk about. Then, when he was ready, he would wander off home again. But this day, as we were chatting, we had no idea what was about to happen. The worst possible thing had happened. We had dropped the bucket full of rocks. Desi was hurt, and from up here, we had no idea how badly. At this point, out of respect, I turned off the cameras. The bucket had glanced off the side of Desi's shoulder and landed on the board he was sitting on. It had hurt him a lot, but luckily there was no lasting damage. We got him out of the hole and called an end to work for the day. The following morning, Desi was fine. By the time we arrived, he was already back down the hole and working hard. On the surface, we had a meeting. I told the men that from now on, there needed to be 2 people on the wheel and another person to hold the bucket at all times. We could not allow the bucket to be dropped again. Because we were all so excited to see the well finished, and because it was such a slow, monotonous process, this part seemed to take forever. It was so slow, at one stage we even caught Sega asleep on the job. Slowly but surely, we were making progress. As we got closer to the top, we got a bird's eye view of the dangerous manoeuvre Desi had to perform in order to change positions. It was a long way to the rocky bottom. One slip could spell disaster. But thankfully, there were no more accidents. After more than 4 weeks of grueling work, Desi had finally finished. He was very happy about it. Although we had completely encased the well in rock, the work was not yet finished. We now needed to cap the well to prevent any contaminants from entering the water. It was amazing to see how the men did this. We placed the rocks in the general shape that was required, then all of the rocks were mortared together. This process was repeated for the concrete pad that would surround the well to help keep it clean. Here, nothing was simple. We couldn't buy concrete reinforcing mesh, so we had to cut steel bars to size and wire each cross-section together in order to make a mesh. When that was done, we put the pump base in, levelled it off, and concreted everything into place. This part of the job was surprisingly quick, so by the end of the day, we were finished.
Now we've reached a really exciting point in the process. The cap is on the well base is in place, and the boys have completed all of the trimming. Now we've just got to wait a few days for the concrete to properly dry, then we can fit the pump to the base and everything's ready to go. Finally, the wait is over. We've reached the final day. The concrete is dry and now we can put the pump together. I'm very excited. Today is going to be an awesome day. This has been my dream for a very, very long time, and today I'm finally going to get to see it.
But before that could happen, there was still a few things we needed to do. The whole water committee was on hand to learn how the pump is put together and how everything works. We inserted the pipe that would bring the water to the surface and cut it to the correct length. We put the cap on the pump, connected the handle, and then, finally, it was time. Because he had done so much of the work, we gave Desi the honour. As he began to pump, everybody was on edge. This was the moment we had all been working toward for the last 2 months. There was a small change in the sound. We could hear the water coming, and I couldn't contain my excitement any longer.
Well, there it is. We finally have water. It's come from the ground. We have it. It's beautiful. I've been waiting to see exactly that for a very, very long time, so this is a special moment for me.
Everyone was eager to have a drink from the new well, none more so than little Afiza, who waited patiently in the background for her turn. I'm not sure if she knew it or not, but this event was particularly important for her and her family. The new well was only 50 metres from their home, which meant that Afiza's mum would no longer need her help every day. The people wanted to make a small presentation to say thank you. And who better to make that presentation than my little friend, Afiza. When the celebrations had settled, the ladies were keen to make the most of the new water and fill their jerry cans. Today, and from now on, they wouldn't have to walk so far to get them home.
Wow, what an amazing thing to be a part of. I can't really describe the feeling right now. You're just gonna have to try it for yourself. This is amazing. Being able to do this for people makes me feel... I just don't have words for that.
The new well was creating a lot of excitement in the village, and it brought a visitor who was a real surprise. I could not believe I hadn't met him until now. This guy made Murga, the 98-year-old, look like a teenager.
This is Abdurrahman. My friend here is 120 years old. Living the natural life in the village can be amazing.
It was a real honour to meet him. This man had lived in 3 centuries. He was incredible.
Amen.
All of that happened quite a while ago, and right now I'm back in the village for the first time in almost 2 years. When I arrived the other day, I was really hoping that my good mate Asafa would be home, because he was the first person that I wanted to see. And luckily for me, well, see for yourself.
Nobody in the village knew that I was coming, so Asafa had no idea that I was about to arrive. We were both so happy to see each other that the welcome went on and on. I had thought about my return to the village many times, and I knew it was going to be exciting. But I really wasn't expecting it to be this emotional. It all left me a little bit lost for words.
This is Asafa, good man.
Asafa greeted Sega in the traditional way, and then he was straight back to me. When the greeting was finished and we got ourselves together, I asked how his family was. He said that they had gone to Dembidolo for the day. I asked if the well was still working. Asafa said it was, and that we should go take a look.
Of course it's still working. We taught them how to use it, how to fix it.
As we began walking, the first person we passed was one of my little friends.
Georgie!
With Georgie in tow, we continued on our way to the well. I was very happy to be back in the village. As we walked, the kids kept coming from everywhere to join the procession. But there was no sign of Afiza.
Hey! Bishan Jila! Yeah, Gomez! Vaya Gomanera! Ule tamet buala, sira ale. Japan pejira.
Yeah.
Gomez. Eshi. So after almost 2 years, the first thing the guys want to show me is that the pump is still working very well and that they've been able to maintain it just the way we showed them when we came here in the first place. These guys are amazing. They've been able to keep the pump going so that everybody has fresh water, and this is the way it should be done.
There's no point digging a well and then leaving the people with no knowledge of how to maintain it, how to work it for themselves. Once they know how to do it, they'll make sure they keep it going. This is good stuff.
The well was not the only thing that was pumped. I was very happy to be back in the village and to see the pump still working. And then, amidst all the excitement, little Afiza arrived.
Afiza!
Georgie! What? Georgie and Afiza! Afiza and Georgie!
It was really nice to see my two little friends again. They were now both 5 years old. They had grown quite a bit, and I was very pleased to hear that little Afiza had started school.
This has been an incredible journey, and for me, it's been a long time coming. My brother tells a story of a time when I was 3 or 4 years old that I don't really remember, but apparently my whole family was sitting around in the lounge room watching television when an ad came on from one of the major charities. Now, it was showing a child drinking out of a puddle of dirty water and explaining that people in Africa were dying because of a lack of clean drinking water. Now, children that age don't understand death, and drinking out of a puddle of dirty water would not be a problem for them because most children will do it themselves. But for me, I completely lost it. I started crying and screaming in my little voice that I had to go and fix it. And although we lived on a property in the middle of nowhere, I was struggling to try and open the door so I could leave the house. My family had to restrain me to stop me from going off into the night to fix it there and then. The naivety of children, huh? To think I could just make a decision to go and change the world. But when it comes down to it, that's exactly what it's going to take to change this world. A single decision to do something about it. But it's going to take more than just one small child to do it. This feeling that I needed to come to Africa to help with the water problems, it's been with me since before I can remember. And I firmly believe that deep down, each and every one of us have a really beautiful feeling about something we'd love to do if only we could. For some of us, that feeling is very clear, and we know exactly what it is we would like to do. For others, it's just a general feeling that they'd like to do something to help, to make a difference somehow. But for all of us, that feeling is our life project. And it's very important that we get that life project done at some point in our life.
In most parts of Ethiopia, it is a tradition to share coffee as part of the welcome. So, when we were finished inspecting the well and catching up with the kids, I wanted to have coffee with the men. I was amazed at how much the place had changed since I'd been away. There was a new asphalt road, a lot more traffic, and a brand new coffee shop had sprung up, which the men were keen to show me. I had come here to have coffee with the men, but, as was often the case, the children kinda took over. When we were finished at the new coffee shop, we were off to a suffer's place, where I had a special surprise waiting for everybody. I had bought a small preview of the footage I had filmed when we were digging the well.
It was awesome to watch as everyone saw themselves on film for the very first time. When it was finished playing, nobody moved. They wanted to see it again and again. We watched the 3-minute film over and over until the battery in the laptop went flat. Then there were a couple of people I wanted to go visit. First on that list was old Murdiga. He greeted me in the way that he always did, with Forenji. Which means foreigner, and it always came with a cheeky little grin. He was now 100 years old, but he had a sparkle in his eye like a teenager, and he was still very quick with a joke.
He's saying, I love you, we love you.
Next, we were off to visit the Grand Patriarch of the village, Abdullah Haman. When we arrived, we found him sitting cross-legged on the ground under a tree. The last time I was here, the men told me that he was 120 years old. But when I asked them how old he was now, they asked Abdullah Haman directly, and we were all in for a big surprise.
130. 120 was a mistake, apparently. 130.
Spending time with this incredible man was a real privilege and honour. For the whole 130 years that he had lived here, his village had had this water problem. To know that he was able to see that problem fixed in his lifetime, and to have him thanking me for that, was a very special feeling that I will carry with me for the rest of my life. All around the world, there are a lot of people who want to see these water and poverty problems fixed, but they don't know what they can do about it. Life Project was made to show people that we can go anywhere in the world and find the people that we want to help. We can speak with their local charity, run by local people on local wages. We can come up with a plan and a budget and work together with the community to dig a well, or do any project we would like to achieve. This is what we can do about it. This is how we fix it. We go and we fix it.
What the world needs now is for people to stop thinking, if only I could. There's no point sitting around waiting for the world to change. We are the world. So if we want the world to change, we need to begin by changing ourselves. We need to remember what's truly important in life. We need to stop our relentless chase after money and things and begin to realise that the real value in life does not come from the material things. It comes from the differences we're able to make in people's lives. We can change the world, but it begins with us, all of us, and a single decision that will begin down the path of achieving our own life project.
When we do this, people all around the world will begin to receive the help that they so desperately need. And we, in return, will receive something truly invaluable. We become part of a community that genuinely loves us. These people, their children, and their children's children will never forget us or the help that we were able to bring for them. And that is what will give us answers for the questions that we all have at the end of our lives.
My name is Dwayne Peachy, and this is my life project. What's your life project going to be? All right, that's it.